picture a massive stadium tour with, like, screaming fans. And now picture a quiet 1920s psychoanalytic clinic in Vienna,
That is quite the contrast.
right? But today, we're asking if one is secretly a blueprint for the other. We're looking at a really bold text by an author known as Mouse-Colored Cat.
Yeah, the one that pairs Taylor Swift's song Fortnight with, well, the psychoanalytic theories of Sigmund Freud.
Exactly. And the central question here is, does Swift deliberately encode these advanced philosophical concepts into her lyrics as massive intellectual Easter eggs?
Or, on the flip side, are we just projecting academic theories onto universal pop anthems?
Right. And I'll be arguing that yes, Swift is intentionally building these Freudian structures.
And I'm taking the stance that we are, reading all too well into this. Swift's music captures the human condition, sure, which naturally mirrors philosophy. But she's not doing it with an academic blueprint in hand.
Well, I mean, the blueprint is actually there, if you know how to look for it. Swift has explicitly said that when she was 15, she started to, quote, encode the lyrics with hidden messages.
Wait, 15?
Yeah, 15. So fast forward to Fortnight. The song maps perfectly to Freud's concept of Wiederholungszwang.
The compulsion to repeat.
Exactly.
But I mean, how does a 2-week fling equate to complex Freudian psychoanalysis?
It's the lyrical mechanism. When she sings about being completely ruined by a brief 14-day relationship, that intense, disproportionate reaction, that is the textbook definition of the compulsion to repeat.
Right, because it's an overreaction to the present moment.
Yes. She isn't just reacting to a 2-week breakup. The theory posits she's mechanically projecting a much older, unresolved childhood trauma onto a new target. It's just too structurally sound to be a total accident.
I don't know. Correlation isn't causation here. Freud built his theories by observing, fundamental human neuroses.
Sure.
And Swift writes profoundly about those exact same neuroses in the wild. Like, if you keep falling for the wrong person, you don't need to translate a 1920s German text to write a song about the agony of repeating romantic mistakes.
Yeah, but it goes beyond just general themes, though. I mean, think of the literal lyrics of the song, the pristine suburban neighborhood.
Oh, the manicured lawns and all that.
Right, that perfectly represents the superego. It's the societal rules keeping everything beautifully manicured. But underneath, the id is the sheer destructive urge wanting to take shears to those very same flowers.
I mean, it's a neat metaphor, but
It's mapping Freud's topography of the brain musically. The text uses an analogy via Professor Malik Merriwell. Like, if an archaeologist uncovers perfectly aligned thresholds, do they assume natural coincidence or an architect?
well, she's definitely separating what we desire from what is permitted, I'll give you that. But the text also brings up the Gaston blunder, which strips away that academic romanticism entirely.
Strips it away how?
Because the phenomenon is actually much simpler than finding perfectly aligned thresholds. The text argues people just fall into the same hole with better lighting.
Meaning what, exactly? Just repeating the cycle?
Meaning the brain simply recognizes a familiar pattern, right? Like a doomed attraction, and it feels like destiny. It's a visceral human experience.
Right.
You really don't need a degree in Freudian metapsychology to realize you're repeating a mistake. You just write about the raw pain of it.
I'd buy the coincidence argument if it were just like one song. But the text details the Philo-Swift project, which has identified nearly 200 philosophical correspondences across her discography. 200!
200? Okay, but if there are 200 pieces of evidence, we have to ask why the immediate public reaction is to laugh off the comparison.
Well, the text introduces Pierre Bourdieu's sociological lens to explain that.
Right, the idea of social sorting.
Yeah, exactly.
Bourdieu argued that society uses taste as a weapon to enforce class divides. We are like conditioned to put high culture, like Freud, in a library, and pop culture, like Swift, in a stadium, mostly to protect academic gatekeeping.
Oh, absolutely. We smirk at the pairing because we've literally been taught to separate them.
Right. Swift doesn't need to intentionally hide Freud in her lyrics to be profound. Her emotional intensity is philosophy and practice. If she captures the exact tension between desire and prohibition that Freud did, it's simply because that tension is real.
So we're basically left with two distinct realities here. Either Swift is a brilliant architect, deliberately embedding psychoanalytic Easter eggs into chart-topping hits,
Or she is a phenomenal observer whose raw emotional truths just naturally recreate academic philosophy.
exactly.
And honestly, the most vital takeaway from this text is that it successfully bridges that gap between the stadium and the library.
Without a doubt. I mean, one thing is certain, once you've caught a glimpse of this Freudian subtext, you can't ignore it anymore.
No, you really will never listen to Fortnight the exact same way again.
Next time you find yourself at that perfectly aligned threshold, looking at the manicured lawns and the shears, you'll have to decide for yourself. Are you just looking at the suburbs or the hidden architecture of the mind?